Hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing good. It is still August. That means it is still Texas Chainsaw Massacre month. And for those who have been paying attention and were nice enough to watch, I have been doing reviews of the entire Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, all 9 films. And this is actually, excuse me, my nose is itchy now. This is the ninth film, which is the first film. The ninth review I'm doing is actually what I meant to say, of the OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, directed by Toby Hooper, written by Toby Hooper and Kim Hankel. My favorite horror film of all time. Definitely the best in the series. I definitely cannot deny that, and I think most people are on board with that. At least fans, OG fans, or older Gen X fans, anyway, usually seem to prefer this one over the remake, and for good reason. The remake is fantastic as its own thing, but nothing beats this film in terms of horror, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, it's my favorite horror film, and always will be. And I'm crooked for somewhere weird there. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, sort of better than it was. Anyway, so let's get into this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start lay out some facts. I know that sounded really weird, but mention some facts about the film. I'll talk about the first time I saw the film, and then I'll talk about likes and dislikes, which is kind of the format I'm going to be going with in the future for talking about movie reviews. In terms of movies that I've seen several times, older films in particular, newer films, it'll just be a straight up me just talking about it and what I liked, disliked, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this film stars Marilyn Burns, who did a lot of cult films after this. Mostly, I think she's known for is Future Kill, which is not really a great film, but like it's low budget, sci-fi. It's not a no, it's not a good film. It's fun to watch, not a good film. The cover art, poster art, is actually what draws people mostly to because it's got a really cool picture. Back in the day, in my early goth and punk days, there was a guy in downtown Toronto. I'd met him a few times. Really chill guy, really cool guy. He had a leather jacket with the Future Kill image painted on the back of the jacket. So, and I talked to him a few times, and the funny thing is, he said he hadn't even seen the film. He just really liked the art, which at that point I had never seen the film either. And I do have it on VHS tucked away somewhere. I think I watched it once, but sadly we lost Marilyn Burns, and when she passed away, 2014 at 65. So still very young age to die. Anyway, also William Vale, who played Kirk. Marilyn Burns played Sally. Just if you didn't already know that. Edwin Neal, who played the hitchhiker. And there he is right there. And can you imagine if you can go back in time 50 years and talk to all the actors in this film and just say, they're going to make action figures and toys of you one day. Like Edwin Neal there. Look at this. And then Gunnar Hansen too. Look, we got this. And yes, I'm aware the hammer's in the wrong hand. Now they're even going to make keychains. They're going to make little balls. Even lunchboxes. And they would probably laugh at you, and yet here we are. But anyway, let me move these things out of my way. There we go. And also stars Alan Danziger as Jerry, Paul Pertain as Franklin, Terry McMinn. She's so adorable, and she's still actually she just had her birthday actually the other day, and. I'm not even sure how old she is. I think she's like 70s, early 70s, mid 70s, somewhere in there. She's still an attractive woman, I'm not going to lie. But really cool, too. I see her interviews, super, super sweet. On Facebook, I see her posts, like, awesome person. Also, Jim Sidhu, who passed away in 2003, and he was 83 years old. He was actually the only member of this cast to go on and be in the second film. And John Dugan, who played Grandpa, and only played once, said, I'm only doing this once because the makeup was brutal. And he's like, and that's it. So get your shit in because I'm not sticking around. And if you've seen the makeup, you can kind of see why he wouldn't want to get back into that, especially for the money he was probably getting paid, which wasn't a whole lot. Ed Gwynn is the truck driver, and John Larroquette, who did the voice opening narration at the price of one joint. Of course, this was long before the days of Dan Fielding and all the other amazing films and things he has done since then. And of course, Gunnar Hansen himself, the OG, the man, Leatherface. All right, skipping ahead. Oh, yes, I know. I was going to talk about the first time I ever saw this. The first time I saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was back when VCRs were a brand new thing, and there was a friend of the family. His name was Dave, really, really nice guy. Um, we'd go to his family members would like my dad, my mom, and my mom's sister, and her husband, my uncle Joe. They would all go over to his house and watch movies. Usually, getting a little dry here. Usually horror films. And as a kid, my mom didn't really like me watching them, but my dad's attitude was, you can watch it, but if you get scared, that's all your fault, and you're not coming into bed with us. Like it's on you. You chose to watch it. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You know what I mean? So, anyway, I was allowed to watch the horror movies. There's a whole list of movies. I think I actually did a whole video of the things we used to watch at his house. But anyway, yeah. So that was my first time seeing it. But the weird thing is, back then, when you watched it on VHS, it was always dark and you couldn't see anything, especially the chase scene where Sally's getting chased by Leatherface. The only things you could see were her white pants and a bit of her shirt because it was a light color, and the moon. And you could see some vague movements. I don't know if anyone remembers that. If you do remember that, tell me in the comments, because I'm really curious to know if anybody does remember that, because we rented the movie years later when I was in my 20s with a friend of mine at the time who hadn't seen the film before, and we watched it. And I just remember watching, like, why is it like that? It's you can't see anything. And then later in the 90s, when I got my first official store-bought VHS version, it was all remastered and cleaned up, and you can see everything clearly like you can now on DVD and Blu-ray, or when you just watch it through streaming and stuff. But yeah, it was just kind of a weird thing. Um, but yeah, that's basically my first memory of watching it, and I've always loved the film ever since. Sorry, I got this weird canker on my tongue, so it's everything sounding weird. But anyway, here's a few fun facts. At the end of the film, when Leatherface cuts his leg, drops on his leg, what they actually did, they put a metal plate under his pants with a big steak hunk of meat on top of that, and when he dropped it, actually cut through the steak, which it was supposed to, and hit the metal plate. But the friction caused by the saw on the metal actually burnt Gunnar Hansen's leg. So part of when he's like goes and he gets over and he grabs his leg, part of it is because he was actually in pain because of the burn, and it did leave a big blister apparently on his leg. I don't know if it left a scar over time, but it sucked. All three family members are supposed to be brothers, even though parts of that doesn't really make any sense. Like when he goes, "Look what your brother did to the door." It's like, why would he say your brother if it's his brother? Wouldn't he say, "Look what our brother did to the door"? Wouldn't he? Or he would just say Leatherface or that idiot or something, right? But apparently they're supposed to all be brothers in spite of the big age gap, but that doesn't always mean anything, because me and my youngest brother, it's a 15-year gap, and my nephew and my niece, the gap between them is like 20 years. So it does happen that way sometimes, but anyway, Sally's mouth rag when she escapes Leatherface and goes to the gas station, and the cook character gags her with that rag. It was a dirty rag that they had actually used to wipe down the catering table, so it had dirt and meat and all kinds of gross stuff. It wasn't a clean rag, and he just wedged it in her mouth and tied it in place. So yeah, gross. But anyway. And in spite of being called a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's actually only one death in the entire film. That's done by the chainsaw. Two of the deaths were done with a hammer, and one is, I guess, in the freezer. It's really undetermined. So, but a couple of the original titles, I know Head Cheese was one. Everybody kind of knows that. Another one was just straight up Leatherface. And there was another one that had something to do based with like all the astrology stuff that kind of shows up in the movie that Terry McMahon, or rather Pam, is talking about when they're in the car and everything, or in the van. She's reading the horoscopes and all that. The title had something to do with that. I don't know if you can hear sirens. I'll wait for them to go. I'll wait. It's okay. Anyway, hopefully it's nothing too serious. Who knows in this neighborhood? But anyway, all of Leatherface's lines were written in as gibberish, and there was actually one point where Gunnar Hansen sort of tried to say a line, and Tobe Hooper said, "No, he sounds too intelligent. Do it again." And Gunnar Hansen was a little bit disappointed and jokingly said that, "Oh, my one chance to actually have a line in this movie," and but and most people already know that there's three masks in the movie. You got the killing mask, you got the grandmother kind of mask, and then the dinner mask, the pretty woman mask, which is that one right there. Um, Marilyn Burns actually got cut a lot during the chase scene when Gunnar Hansen is chasing her through the trees and the brush and everything. And a lot of the blood that was actually on her was her own blood because she was getting cut up. It was nighttime. She's trying to run through this and get do the shots. So she actually did cut herself up pretty good. And also Leatherface kept outrunning her. So a lot of the times when you see Leatherface in the background just randomly cutting things to get through it, I mean, it looks legit. Holy shit. Sirens. But anyway, yeah, he's cutting that just to give her more time to gain some more distance between them. So is that also Marilyn Burns did get a cut because of Gunnar Hansen. It's the scene where she gets her finger cut and puts it in Grandpa's mouth so he can suck the blood from it and drink the blood. Well, the prop, they had a knife with a little prop hose that would squirt blood, but it kept getting jammed. So Gunnar Hansen finally got fed up because everybody was stressed out during the shoot and really wanted to strangle Tobe Hooper when it was over. But holy shit, if it's not guns, it's fucking idiots with the pop 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 mufflers, fucking losers. Anyway, they pull that off. He just pulled it off and cut her finger for real. And then when he stuck it in John Dugan's mouth, all up in as Grandpa, he's literally sucking on Marilyn Burns' real blood and didn't even realize it. So I don't know, take that how you want. The idea for the film was during the Christmas rush at a hardware store, and Tobe Hooper was just getting frustrated with all the people there, and he saw a display of chainsaws, and he just thought to himself, "Oh, if he could just, what would it be like if he just took one of the chainsaws off, started and just cutting his way through the crowd?" And that's kind of sort of what gave him the idea for the chainsaw aspect of the film. And of course, Ed Gein, the serial killer Ed Gein, or he's kind of a serial killer, grave robber, I guess would be more accurate. Though he did kill a couple people, but he was more of a grave robber, and he was the main inspiration for the Leatherface character, and the furniture made out of bones and everything else in the film. He was also Silence of the Lambs, not this character, of course, but Buffalo Bill, and of course Psycho Norman Bates. He was the influence for both those characters. Gunner's shirt could not be washed. So through the entire shoot in that Texas heat, he's sweating, stinking up. They couldn't wash it because of continuity issues. Honestly, I don't think they would have noticed. It would have been noticed really on the screen because he's wearing an apron a lot of the time, or he's wearing a jacket over it. I think they could have washed it. But also, they only had one shirt. That was the other problem. If the shirt got lost or damaged, then they only had the one shirt to use, and he's like an extra large size shirt. So they might not have been able to find that shirt again very easily. So people really avoided him because he just smelled. Like, imagine wearing the same clothes every day in the heat for a month and then expecting people to want to sit with you. It's not going to happen. So yeah, he did a lot of his lunches alone because not that they didn't like him. He just smelled so sweaty and disgusting. Gunnar Hansen trained himself for the role. A couple of reasons. He went to a hospital where mentally disabled people were there, and just kind of watching how they walked, how they moved, because he wanted the character to be believable. And so yeah, he watched their mannerisms, the way they act, the way they interacted with each other, the way they communicated, and just their whole physical aspect of, what they looked like, essentially, so he could take that and put it into his character to make it more believable. Which I think, out of all the Leatherfaces that are supposed to be slow, I'm going to say slow for lack of a better term, he's the one that portrays it the best. actually see it in the character, the way he walks, the way he moves. More sirens, yay! Um, and also because he knew he had a lot of running to do at that sort of the end of the second act, so he actually started jogging and working out a little bit, not to lose weight, but just to get his stamina up, so he can do these long runs and these long takes without running out of breath. And obviously it worked because he kept catching up to Marilyn Burns, and she was trying to outrun him. So it's that. The chainsaw death at the end. Sorry, the chainsaw dance at the end. Um, when he's freaking out, he was actually using that in a way to get back at Toby Hooper. So when he was swinging the chainsaw around, he was getting a little closer, and it was a real functioning chainsaw, getting a little bit closer than he needed to, just to get Toby Hooper to jump back, and kind of like his way of saying, yeah, fuck you for all the misery you caused us. And, so um, Terry McMinn, who played Pam, the chainsaw girl, it was actually her birthday is the same date the film takes place on. So it's kind of an interesting little thing. Um, the house was actually owned by some people. It wasn't some derelict house, say like in Night of the Living Dead, that was going to be torn down. It was some people actually lived in the house. So if you notice, if you look at the house from the front and you look at when they're inside the house, they're only using the one half of the house. And the other half was blocked off with curtains and other things, so you couldn't see there, and all the furniture was moved into there during the entire shoot. And everything was cool except for one thing, a couple things actually. The house smelled afterwards from all the dead animals and all the blood and stuff. But not only that, they actually took the original door off the house, put a prop door up for the movie that Gunnar Hansen's supposed to cut through at the scene when he's chasing Sally. He actually cut into the door frame, so they weren't too happy about that, and I don't blame them, because you cut into their house. But whatever. Most of the sounds in the film, there's no actually musical score. It's all a lot of creepy sound effects, which is supposed to simulate the sounds heard by animals when they're in the slaughterhouse. I don't really get that, but it is a really creepy. The sounds are really creepy. I did download the soundtrack, which has all those sounds on it, and just listening to them with headphones on, it's insane. Like, it's intense. Like, you should do it, or find it on YouTube or something, and listen to it. It's just so dark and eerie. Like, and if that's what an animal is hearing for the most of their life, then you really feel bad about it. Might make you want to be a vegetarian. The bracelet. If you notice, Terry McMinn or Pam's wearing a bracelet through the whole movie, right? Or through all her scenes in the movie, even in the scene where she jumps up out of the freezer. But then after that, actually no, in the freezer scene, she doesn't have it anymore. My mistake. She doesn't have it anymore, but you notice that's when Gunnar Hansen, or Leatherface, is wearing it. So he took her bracelet and started wearing it himself. Small detail that most people might overlook, but it's there. I already mentioned the original titles. Most of the skeletons, or not most, pretty much, yeah, most of the skeletons in the film were real. They were bought from India as they're skeletons used for medical research and studies for schools. But a lot of filmmakers will buy those instead of prop skeletons, especially back in the day, because they're cheaper than using plastic ones, that like realistic looking plastic ones. It's cheaper to buy an actual dead person. And they did the same thing in Poltergeist in the pool scenes and such. But that's just an interesting thing. Like, it's cheaper to buy human remains rather than fake props, but too bad they didn't know that was their family member in there. And they go, yeah, there's Dad hanging in the background, but there's also a scene, if you notice, Gunnar Hansen, he does this sharp turn at one point, but he sort of does this little hobble, and he bounces on his feet. The reason for that is earlier there was a scene where he did sort of the same thing, and the chainsaw slipped out of his hand. Now, keep in mind, it's a real functioning chainsaw, and it's heavy, and it flies up in the air, and it nearly hit Gunnar Hansen in the head. So when he had to do that sharp turn, he wasn't taking any risks, because the shoes were kind of flat on the bottom, and they had nothing to really grip. So he basically slid. So he did that little hop thing basically to not die. So Paul Pertain, they still owed him, I think, three or $400 before they did the one of the scenes that were shot last. I believe it was the going down the hill in the wheelchair near the beginning of the film, and he was like not going to do it unless he got the check, and he wanted to see someone else go down. He wanted to see Toby Hooper go down the hill first to make sure it was safe. So Toby Hooper did go down the hill, and then Paul Partain did his shot as Franklin going down the hill, and then everybody in the crew started doing it every constantly because it was a lot of fun. And also at that point, they didn't need the wheelchair after shooting that scene. But if you notice, you'll see a rectangle in Paul Partain's pocket, in Franklin's pocket. That's actually the folded up check sitting in the pocket while they made the movie, while they shot that scene. Mitchy. Bryanston, which was the company that owned the film, was actually run by the mafia who did porn films and did this, and then they completely screwed over everybody, and then there's a lot of legal issues. I'm not going to get into that because that would be like a video that would take even longer than this one's going to be. But yeah, look that shit up, and yeah, they were a mafia company, and there was a lot of shit going on. And the original house still exists. It's been relocated more than once now, and is a restaurant. It's been converted into a restaurant, and then it was relocated again and still kept as a restaurant. And people do go there and do tours there, and they're, as long as you call ahead of time and say, oh, can I come in and whatever, not during a peak period, but yeah, and they're pretty cool with it. So it promotes the restaurant, and you get to see one of the most iconic films in horror history where it was filmed. So you got that. Now let's go into dislikes, and I literally only have one, and it's more of a why than is the end of the film when the truck driver pulls up the Black Maria truck driven by what's his name, Ed Gwynn, but he grabs Sally. They go into the truck, then they go out the other door and run. It's like, why did they do it? Why didn't he just start the truck up? The chainsaw is just cutting into the door. You had time to start the truck up and just keep going. Why go back out of the truck and run away? I've never understood that. A lot of fans have questioned it, and if you have an answer for me, drop it in the comments. I mean, I'm really curious, and and I love comments anyway because I love the banter. I also love subscribers, every one of you. I love all of you, and if you want to become one, please become one and help me get up to 1,000 subs, because that's just it's just a little goal I'm setting for myself, which I mention a lot, and a lot of people do that for me, and I appreciate every one of you, and just people who watch my videos. I appreciate that too, just to throw that out there. But yeah, that's the only dislike I have, and a few likes. Everyone shits on Franklin. I like Franklin's character, and I'll tell you why. He's whiny, he's miserable, but he's there because they told him to come. Come along, Franklin, it's going to be a good time. He even makes fun of them by saying that line. But why would you invite him? He's in a wheelchair. I got nothing against people in a wheelchair, like, it is what it is, but there's no access to upstairs. Everything is just kind of there. There's dirt and grime everywhere, and he's got to wheel around and all that. Why would that be fun for him? Why would, and also, why would he go? Why would he agree to it? But whatever. Why would they invite him? And then the first thing they do when they get there is leave him by himself outside while they go upstairs. And then Kirk and Pam come downstairs, and they ask to go where the pond is to go swimming, where the swimming hole is, and just leave him there. It's like he just shows up and everybody fucks off and just leaves the poor guy sitting there in his wheelchair all by himself. And they're a couple, like they're two couples, and he's by himself. I like Franklin. I understand why he's pissed off and why he's upset and annoying and stuff, because he's frustrated. I would be the same way. I'd probably be worse. But anyway, another thing I love about this movie, it doesn't have the basic slasher film tropes that would come later. There's no nudity, no over-the-top gore. I mean, I love these things in other movies. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these are good things. But this does it without all that. There's no swearing in the movie. I think somebody says hell or damn or something. That's about it. It doesn't have any of that, and the film still works. It's still a masterpiece and one of the best of all time. But like I said, I love Friday the 13th films and Halloween films, seeing the boobs and seeing the blood and all that stuff. I'm not knocking any of that, but this does away with all of that, or doesn't even. This is before all that, and it still stands up and holds up to the movies that came out later. If anything, in a lot of ways, it's superior to a lot of those films. So, but that's also I'm biased because it's my favorite horror movie of all time. So, the sound effects, as I mentioned, what they were, the sound effects are amazing. All the noise, and it's just really creepy, but I already mentioned that earlier, so I'm not really going to get into that. I love all the characters. Every character in this movie, even the minor characters, secondary characters, all serve a purpose, and they're all good. Like the drunk guy lying on the tires, and you laugh at an old man. The cowboy guy, you don't mind if I steal your girl, do you? Like every character in this movie serves a purpose. It's not oversaturated. The family, every member of the family is awesome, like in their own way. They're evil and fucked up, but like they're good characters. They're awesome. They're entertaining. You're not bored when any of them are on the screen. Franklin, like I said, serves a purpose. Pam, Sally, all of them, they're great characters. There's not one character in this movie I don't like. And there's not like a million characters where, okay, let's just kill everybody one at a time. Well, they kind of do that, but it's not like it's like 20 characters and it's just a rampage of killing without any sort of story, or you don't really get to know the characters. You get to know each one, you feel for them, and it's great. I love that when movies actually do that. Halloween is probably one of the better examples of how that's done. The way it's filmed, you're on edge all the time. What's going to happen next? Like you're just, especially at the time it was made. Now it's now it'd be kind of a little bit slow, but whatever. But I still love the movie. But you're always like, what's going to happen next? What's this character going to do? How is this going to play out? I love the way it's shot. It's so gritty and dirty, and yes, it does come off looking almost like a documentary. The shot of Sally's eye when she's screaming, and just get that close up of her like beautiful green eyes, and you're just like wow, like that's just the intensity. It's shot from the side, then here, and it's just all these quick cuts of her screaming and her head. It's just so perfectly filmed for such a low budget. You don't get movies like that anymore because everything's got to be HD and everything's got to be so perfect and clean, and it's kind of boring to me in that sense. Not the movies are always boring, but I just don't. It's just everything's the same now in that regard. This movie, you don't get movies like this, and you never really got them like that before, unless they were actually a documentary. The Leatherface reveal is awesome when Kirk goes into the house and Leatherface just kind of appears and hits him over the head with the hammer, and then like that whole scene is amazing from the time he gets hit to when Pam goes in the house and her running away. He's got Terry around the waist and takes her in and goes to he has to actually turn her around, put her on the meat hook, and just it's so believable because besides the way it's filmed, looking documentary style, when he takes her in, she's facing the meat hook. She sees it. She knows what's coming. When he literally has to turn her around, and then when she's reaching to get away from him, he just picks her up like she's nothing and just, that whole scene is just flawless. It's so perfect. It's such a horror scene. It's so intense, and it gets you like you're actually like, if you have the first time you see it, you're just like, oh my God, what's going on? And then when he pops her on the hook, you're like, that happened? It's awesome. Just great movie. The second reveal too, when Jerry shows up and he opens up the freezer and Pam, she starts spazzing out, and then Leatherface turns around and looks up, and again he sees the meat hook or the hammer. And the funny thing is, I always want to say Glenn Danziger, but no, it's now I got to look back his name because Alan Danziger. I don't know how I couldn't remember that, but he freaked out the first time he saw Leatherface that he actually ran and tried to jump out through the door because it startled him so much because they hadn't seen him in the makeup yet and in the mask. So he had a freak out and ran. So that's kind of cool too. There was actually real fear in that scene. Leatherface second reveal. And everything about the movie, the aesthetics of the film, all the skeletons, all the bones, all the dead animals, the bone room itself that Pam falls into with the chicken in the cage. Like it's just, everything about the appearance of this film is just dirty and gross and like just scary. Like if that was a real place you wandered into, you'd be terrified. And it looks like a real place. It doesn't look like some Hollywood thing. It looks like something you actually could walk into and be like, where the fuck am I? What the fuck just happened? But Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this. It ran a long time because I love this movie and there's a lot to talk about and a lot to mention. But yeah, if you like this movie, and even if you don't like this movie, drop it in the comments and tell me why or why not. Because I will get back to you, especially on this film, because I do love this movie so much. If you watched this all the way to the end, thank you so much. And if you want to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, help me get up to those 1,000 subs. I'd really appreciate that. Anyway, I am going to do my thing and put this on. Oh my god, I just burped out of nowhere. But yeah, put this on YouTube, and I guess until the next one, bye.